Today on BRStv Investigates, have you ever thought of mounting your lights on the ceiling? Can it be done without enormous losses of light efficiency spilling into your room? Today we find out. Hi, I'm Randy with this Friday's BRStv Investigates, where we put popular reefing gear, theories, and methods to the test by experimenting on our own tanks so you don't have to experiment on yours. And in today's experiment, we already know that mounting height matters to achieve optimal light spread, and lens design matters in determining optimal mounting heights. But today we want to know if you can manipulate that lens design in such a way that can turn a normally wider floodlight into a laser beam spotlight, allowing you to mount the light fixture higher than you may have thought possible, upwards of 2.5 to 4 feet off the top of the tank. To test this question, we're unveiling the Kessil T365 Focusable spotlight, which is something you might have seen mounted over the Kessil's lobby tank, which takes lighting technology from Kessil's sister brand Felix for the stage lighting industry, where the lights are often far away from the object that they're lighting. And today, you'll see how narrowing the beam's light angle into super focused ranges not only allows us to achieve extreme mounting heights off the top of the tank, but does so in a way that still maintains 70% or more of the light inside a 2 foot by 2 foot area. If that doesn't register as impressive to you, just wait until you see how that amount of saved light efficiency compares to the 9 and 19% using a single Kessil A360X mounted at similar heights off the water. The results are astonishing. So most of you are pretty familiar with the soft floodlight Kessil A360X and its 130-degree wide-angle lens, which we've tested its optimal mounting height to be at a pretty low 8 inches off the water in a 2 foot by 2 foot area. And many of you are also familiar with the A360X narrow reflector from Kessel that focuses that 130-degree floodlight into a 55-degree spotlight, but we're saving that comparison for next week because today we've got our hands on the ceiling-mounted T365 from Kessel that uses a Fresnel lens to focus the light beam's angle down to a super narrow 12-degree laser beam or slightly wider 36-degree lens. Using this specialized lens focusing equipment, we're seeking to answer 2 questions today. 1, can you turn a laser beam spotlight at 6 inches above the water into a wider angle floodlight at mounting heights upwards of 30 to even 48 inches off the tank? And second, by raising a floodlight or spotlight upwards of 3 or 4 feet off the water, how much light efficiency can you expect to lose? 30%? 40%? More than 50%? Let's find out. To answer today's 2 questions, we'll first recap the par distribution and spread of the Kessil A360X at both 6 and 8 inches over a 2 foot by 2 foot area to set the stage for performance of a wider angle flood lamp. Then we'll rack up the T365 with zoomable Fresnel lens and test the light spread in that same 2 square foot area while we raise the lights 6 inches at a time, starting from a super low 6 inches off the water all the way up to 48 inches. The A360X at a max 90 watts and the T365 at a max 85 watts are pretty close, so they should have similar output, but today's conversation is all about how that light is distributed using completely different lens beam angles. What we're looking for is the point where the average par in the center, middle, and outer edges from the Kessil T365's super narrow beam angle approaches a similar distribution and spread performance of the wider 130-degree Kessil A360X. And more importantly, what is the cost of light efficiency lost when we mount these lights at those higher mounting heights? Starting with a baseline look at the mounting height performance test of the 130-degree Kessil A360X in a 2 foot by 2 foot area, we see at a low 6-inch mounting height, there's already a solid spread performance with only 160 average par separating the center average and the outer ring. However, at the optimal 8-inch mounting height, we found even better performance and ultra flat distribution with only a 72 par separation from the center to the outer ring. The key takeaway here from these results is that at just 2 inches higher from 6 to 8, there's already a 14% loss of efficiency or total average par, and you'll see in just a second that you lose almost all of that light efficiency at heights of 30 and 48 inches off the water. Although the Kessil T365 and 360X are different in their lens beam angles out of the box, yet fairly close in wattage, let's see what happens to that spread, distribution, and efficiency loss when the Kessil T365 is focused to its widest angle of 36 degrees and most focused angle at just 12 degrees. With the Kessil T365, it's 6 inches off the water surface. On the left, we see the Fresnel lens zoomed completely out at 36 degrees, and on the right, fully zoomed in at 12 degrees, and it's immediately apparent that we've focused down the light output into a very strong laser beam between both settings. Obviously, neither of these settings are usable at this mounting height, but we do see that the more focused 12-degree angle is 112 par higher in the center, while the 36 degree is slightly more dispersed. It's also important to note here the total average par between the two lens angles, with 174 average par at 36 degrees and 146 par at 12 degrees, as this will be our indicator of light efficiency loss to light spilling out of the tank and will help us identify if higher mounting heights are worth the performance they can provide. Again, we tested the T365 in 6-inch increments, so our next mounting height stop is at 12 inches off the top of the water, and we're seeing just how quickly the wider angle starts to spread the light more evenly across the tank, where it's lost nearly half of its center average par and gained around 30 par out towards the edges, while the narrower 12-degree angle still shows a laser beam-like spread quality, gaining only 3 par in the outer ring from the start of the test. At 18 inches, there is similar distribution performance between the two. The 36-degree beam angle is now 79 par in the outer ring, while the 12-degree beam angle makes minor gains to just 14 par. Yet looking at the average par of both from where we started at 6 inches, we've only lost 7 and 8% of light efficiency respectively, meaning far more light is staying inside the 2-foot testing area at mounting heights 10 inches higher than the Kessil A360X on its own. Now we raise the Kessil T365 to a full 24 inches or 2 feet off the top of the water, where the 36-degree lens angle starts to distribute the light more closely resembling the A360X, but still not quite there. And the 12-degree lens angle center average par finally dips below half of where it started, down to 597, yet with a still pretty low 35 outer par average. Next, we test at 30 inches or 2.5 feet off the water, and it's here that we find the 36-degree beam angle has come close to achieving similar par spread and distribution of the Kessil A360X, where there's only a 22 average par difference from the center to the middle and 40 average par difference between the middle and outer ring. However, we are comparing the results of the A360X mounted at our recommended 8 inches, while the T365 is mounted 22 inches higher at 30 inches, demonstrating that changing the lens design allows us to achieve similar results, yet we lost 31% from the start, so there is an efficiency cost. But what if we raise the Kessil A360X to the same 30 inches? Well, at this mounting height, the 130-degree lens loses an astonishing 81% of efficiency, leaving only 19% of the total average par inside the tank from the original recommended 8 inches. This spread performance using a 36-degree beam angle is almost equal to our Kessil A360X. However, using this specialized tool and changing the shape of the light beam, we are now able to mount our lights almost 2 feet higher, which for many reefers begins approaching the average distance from the bottom of the light to the top of most tanks if they were mounted from the ceiling. As expected, we don't find the same spread performance at 30 inches using the 12-degree beam angle, which only has a 13% efficiency loss at this height. So we continued testing every 6 inches until we were able to get closer, which we didn't see until we mounted the light at a full 48 inches or 4 feet off the top of the water. Looking at the data for the 12-degree lens angle, now mounted at 48 inches, we see a 242 center, 137 middle, and 64 outer ring, and there's only a 105 par difference between the center to the middle and 73 par difference between the middle and outer edges. At this extreme 4-foot mounting height, there's only a 26% loss of efficiency using the T365. However, when we mount our A360X at 48 inches, which is 40 inches higher than recommended, we see a phenomenal 91% loss from the 130-degree lens angle, showcasing that there's absolutely the right tools for right jobs, meaning that with the right tool, you can achieve nearly any mounting height that fits your specific needs. Which leads us to answering today's first question of, can you turn a laser beam spotlight at 6 inches above the tank into a wider angle floodlight at higher mounting heights? Without a doubt, this one gets a 10 out of 10 on the Reef certainty scale, and something you can easily test yourself at home using your own light to help you dial in your light's ideal mounting height. By measuring the PAR directly under the light and then measuring near the edges of the tank, you can determine whether you have a soft floodlight or spotlight fixture, and then use that information to raise your light until you achieve the most even spread possible. You might even be able to do this as effectively without a PAR meter by simply looking at the beam of light inside the tank when mounted low, and then raising your light fixture up until it fills more of the extreme edges of the tank, or possibly by measuring the amount of light spilling out of your tank using a piece of paper, which is something we plan to explore in future BRStv Investigates tests. Answering that second question today of how much light efficiency can you expect to lose at higher mounting heights, it's plain to see how wide-angle floodlights are simply just not the right tool if your goal is to mount them well above your tank. But by using specialized lenses and narrowing the beam angle, you can maintain an acceptable amount of light spill and begin exploring completely new mounting height options like Kessel has done over their 6-foot office reef, with surprisingly little efficiency losses when coupled with the barn doors to manage visual light spill. This is a unique lighting solution which allows you to mount the lights totally out of the way, eliminates cords, and provides options that I wouldn't have guessed were even possible. Which leaves us asking one final question. For those of us who don't have a ton of cash to splurge on specialized stage lighting technology like the Kessil T365, what specialized lenses are available to us average reefers to accomplish similar goals? We'll find out how much higher you can mount a Kessil A360X using this $30 A360X narrow reflector attachment that focuses the 130-degree lens down to a spotlight beam of just 55 degrees in this next episode right over here.